Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals. I'm Dawn, and this is
Dixie.
Woo! I'm so
Whoop, whoop.
glad to be talking to you yet for another week. I'm excited about next week. Now we air these differently. We've kind of canned a few of these before we actually started. We did the exercises before we actually started recording them, so we are not in real time all the time when we're bringing
Mhm.
you these podcasts. So interestingly, next week our opportunity for uncovering our soul goals will be done side by side. We're going to be in the same
Yay!
room.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
It'll
And
be
we've
so
talked about
fun.
having guests on over the holidays, which is going to be really fun. So
Yeah.
we'll look forward to some really interesting conversations with Dixie and myself and a plethora of folk we will bring on to
Yes.
experience this with us.
A
Yeah.
plethora. I love that word. A plethora.
I haven't said that in a very long time. I
I love it. I haven't either. I
don't
used
know
to
where
say
that
it all
came
the
from,
time.
but
I
okay.
know. Ah.
Well, if we are going back to the basics for this year, just letting everyone know to catch you up, what we are doing each week is Dixie and I are taking part in a specific exercise that is meant to help build our soul goals, kind of uncover what it is that makes us tick. Definitely stretches us, as if you can listen back to a few of the ones that we've already aired. Ooh, there's been some doozy exercises that are really, really challenging, but ultimately the goal is to find out what it is that we need more of in our life, and sometimes being uncomfortable is important for us to find that contentness and that place for us to be a whole person that we can bring to everybody around us. So
Yes.
yeah. So
Definitely learning for sure.
how do you feel about it all so far? I mean, like, we're now recording week we're recording like week 11 or 12 right now. How do
Oh
you
wow.
feel?
Okay. I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot done.
We
So
yeah, we have, like, that was my first thought, but I'm interested to hear what's your take on doing this on an ongoing basis? Because it's hard to commit to an exercise each week, especially with our life. I know you said at one point, like, being moms, being wives, being coworkers, being daughters, being all the things that you have in our world to take care of. I'm
mhm.
interested to hear what you feel about, like, the last 10, 11, 12 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think that being all of those things does your first, like, from the jump, we put ourselves on the back burner because we have to we have priorities and things that we love doing. Like, I love being a mom, even to my grown children, but I also am my mother lives with us. So we have
Mm.
because I take care of her, and then I'm a wife and a friend and a coworker and all the things like you just said.
Yeah.
So I think what it's done is it's forced me to do things that just for me.
Yeah.
And some things have stuck and some things probably need to stick, but they haven't. Like, I don't think I've gone once I got myself back on social media, I don't think I've gotten off again. So there's that.
I haven't
Um
either. Just a sidebar.
I know once I did the exercise though, it took me a few days to kind of get back in the swing of posting, but once I got back in the swing, it was like, you know, not a day had passed.
Yeah, like, down that rabbit
Hello,
hole
friend.
again.
Huh. And the reading has been extremely valuable. I've kept
Mm.
that
Yeah.
in my regimen. Of course, the exercising and stuff we did already, but
Right, right.
loved the grounding. So I just think what it does is it forces you to just try new ways to prioritize yourself because you can't serve those that you love from an empty place. So
Right.
whatever opportunity you get to fill, take it, and some fill you and some drain you, and this is figuring that out, and I actually have really enjoyed it.
Oh, good. I love that
Yes.
analogy.
Yes. What about you? What's your takeaway?
I think it's great because I think it's fine-tuning what it is that I really need, and I'm learning. I kind of feel like before I hit the record and before we started talking today and you stepped into the studio, I was like, I just contemplated the fact that I've learned a big piece about me that I've always known, but when it's in your face after doing these exercises, it's, like, undeniable.
Mhm.
And a big part for me is this constant go, constant go, constant go. And so many of these exercises that we're doing are causing us to pause and take
Mhm.
a moment. And I think in moments of heightened awareness when I may be triggered, it's easier for me to take a breath and pause because I've been taught those different tools in my therapy through the years. But I think on an ongoing basis, to know that I am valuable enough to take care of and to slow down intentionally when there's not an external stimuli that's hitting me in some capacity.
Mhm.
Like, it's really important for me to do that. So that's the biggest takeaway. I love the grounding. It has helped me so, so, so much when I see private clients to
Mhm.
just really pull myself back into my body and let them have their stuff and let me be where I'm at. And that sounds kind of maybe sounds kind of goofy, but I think when you serve people, like I know you work in the service industry, when you
Mhm.
serve people even all day long in your home as well as outside of your home, whether you volunteer, whether you're working for with a small group, a large group, an individual,
Mhm.
there is those that you're pouring out all the time, all the time, all the time, and you're just giving so much of yourself in multiple different capacities at any point in time. So the grounding for me has helped kind of like you said, like it's poured more into me. It's filled me back up.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For
And you
sure.
know what?
And
The Post-it. I love the Post-it. I'm still carrying Post-it notes and a Sharpie around with me in my car.
yeah.
I did it when
That's
I was
the
out of
best.
town. I did it when I was out of town last weekend,
I
Dixie.
love that. I
Yeah.
love that so much.
Yep.
I think too, I was with these exercises that we've been doing, I think um like you just said, being in the service industry or volunteering or whatever, I was just having this conversation with my son actually talking about or my daughter, I can't remember which one, but now that I said son, I'm doubting myself. Um
No.
I was just talking about like going to the gym or going to the grocery store. And when you, because I work in the service industry and I work at a place that's in my community where I live, I see a lot of people when I'm in my work, capacity, but then I also see them at the gym. I
Yeah.
see them at the grocery store. So the the constant having to be on and in
Oh,
service mode, because I still need to be that way if I run into them randomly and not at my work, because that is still a reflection, And so
right.
anything I can do to pour in, strengthen, ground, anything I can do to, what's the word I'm looking, I don't even know the word I'm looking for, but just fill those areas up,
Yeah.
energize myself
Yeah.
is,
Oh, I like that. Energize
yeah,
you. Yeah.
yes, is needed, I'm noticing. And my coach has been telling me that for 2 years. She's been like, "It's okay to put Dixie first because
Yeah.
Dixie puts everybody else first all the time." And
Yeah.
I never, it's like I didn't even see it. I was just in the middle of it, spinning all the plates.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I think
so,
that's a great oh, I like that metaphor and that visual you just gave.
yeah,
Like
so
spinning on the plates, it's the magician that's doing that, and I think we are so I think as women, and maybe like I don't want to generalize and leave men out of this because I know there are specific households where men are like have to do
mhm,
majority of the stuff as well
sure.
that falls in depends on I guess it really depends on your role in your household, really.
Mhm, mhm,
But every role in every household has their issues, has their full up capacity. And my husband and I were
mhm,
actually just talking about this yesterday.
mhm,
And his role in our household is so different from my role in our household just because not because of what society says it needs to be, but because of what our choices have been. And
mhm.
it used to be completely different. It used to be completely flipped for
Yeah,
what
and what your strengths are too.
Yeah.
There's some things that you do that he can't do, and
Yeah.
vice versa. Not because you're not capable, but it's kind of where your strengths are, where you thrive.
Right, right. And ideally, what we wanna do is continue to thrive and be in a place where we're healthy enough on all the levels. I'm not just talking physically, like from our
Right.
exercise and eating well kind of standpoint, but I'm talking about like spiritually, mentally, emotionally, all of that really being plugged into what it is that we need to do to help ourselves thrive, like you said,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
to really, really hone those strengths that make us us, the gifts that we have innately that have been sewn into our DNA and it's sewn into our soul. So
Mhm.
our soul's goals. There you
That's
go.
right. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. And the things that bring me energy and fill me up are totally different than the things that do that for my husband. Like, he's
Right.
not getting in the front yard barefooted, um,
You know, I'd
but
love to see that. Will you can you get him to do that and take
I
a picture?
know, right? We can give it a try. We'll see. But he'll go to his camp and he gets completely energized. So
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
kind of different for everybody. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, we just go back to the whole goal of this year for us doing these exercises is to help viewers and listeners at home understand what these specific things are. I mean, you
Mhm.
can read about them, a therapist can tell you about them, but I feel like if someone experiences it and gives you the down low on it, like then you can go, all right, I'm cool. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think you can do that. Or rule, I don't want nothing about
Yeah.
that sounds appealing to me.
Not doing that anymore.
Like,
Right.
disconnect to reconnect.
Yeah.
Well, this week's opportunity was really great. I enjoyed it. I'm really interested to see how you felt about it. Because I saw one of your posts earlier today. I saw one of your
Mhm.
Instagram stories. So
Mhm.
this week's challenge is called Namaste, and no Namaste in bed. That comes up right every Christmas holiday.
That's
All right,
right.
namaste, meaning yoga. And what our opportunity for the week was to engage in some type of yoga exercise at least 3 times. And mine was really interesting because I'm a former yoga instructor. I still hold my credentials, and like, one day maybe I'll go back to it. And
I did not know that. So
you didn't?
I did not know that you were a yoga instructor, which is probably going to make you laugh when I talk about my week. But anyway,
I'm
continue.
not gonna laugh. I'm laughing at the fact that I didn't even know that you didn't know that.
No, but I love that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. I love
And
it.
I'm an ERYT, uh, 300, 200. I'm not sure what my number is at this point with the
So
hours that
what is
I've
that?
studied.
Oh, that has depends on how much education you've had or
Yes,
so
yeah,
forth.
and
Okay.
then the E before the numbers is the experience in terms of how many classes you have taught
Oh,
under your belt.
nice.
Yeah. So there's really not a huge governing body for that yoga credential, if you will. That's kind of that's the overlaying thing. It's really different than personal training. And like personal training, there's so many different avenues
Mhm.
and different organizations that you can train through to get your certification. Yoga's a little bit different, but I just remember never being really plugged into yoga. When I was a personal trainer, I was like stretch, schmetch, whatever.
Mhm.
But I was
Right.
also like 22, 23, 24 years old, and my body was happy. I didn't mind that I
Right.
didn't have to stretch my hamstrings
Mhm.
after I went for a run. But as you age, and then as I was having an aging demographic in my personal training business, yeah, I found it really, really important to stretch with the clients and then to actually stretch them at the end of the session,
Mhm.
which was really awesome. It was another thing that kind of added in, like I said, as I aged and I experienced it. And then I went to a point where I realized that personal training for me was not all that there was. I felt
Mhm.
like there was other ways that I could impact people with the experience that I've had and the kind of the life stuff that I've gone through. And I just could not continue to tell my clients that, these bicep curls are going to change your life because
Right.
like, they're a part of it, but there's a bigger part of that picture too. And for me, yoga was a really great vehicle to get to a bigger picture of other than just stretching or other than just going into a hot yoga room and sweating and going through a series of Bikram poses.
Mhm.
It becomes very, very mental at a certain point on a really deep level after you've practiced for a certain period of time. And it could be 1 week, it could be 1 year. It all just unfolds and you kind of crack yourself open with
Mhm.
your yoga practice, depending upon what you're ready to go to. And you
Mhm.
just trust your journey. So all that being said, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm a
Love
yoga
that.
instructor from the past. Yeah.
Oh, love it.
Yeah. Tell me
Oh my
about what
goodness.
happened with you. I want to know what your yoga experience was first.
Well, excuse me. It well, I didn't do 3 times, let's just say
Okay.
that.
Okay.
Because I was a little afraid. I thought this was gonna be a super easy challenge for me
Yeah.
because I remember last week when we talked, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
I remember.
And then quickly became like, oh no, because I've just recently started back in this stage of my life going through the changes that I'm going through. I've just recently started back with some more intense training and things like that. Training for
Right.
a race, whatever, a high rocks
Right.
race. Well, um, this also started a week where I'm doing 70 days of, so many things every day just to
Mhm.
keep myself on track. And,
Mhm.
um, but it wasn't the timing or anything like that because I did one of my coach's programs and she has a couple weeks back and she programs planks and, so many times, on just a regular plank and then a one armed,
Yeah.
how you do the one arms.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I literally a few weeks ago during one of the one arms completely just fell on my face
Oh
because
no.
I know it was kind of funny. I was recording it and I posted it of me falling on my
Okay.
face and I was like, don't mind me, we're all a work in progress. But I remember a day where that was nothing. Like I was not falling on my face back
Yeah.
in, the younger days. So I just worked up in my head, like I'm not gonna be able to hold myself up. This is gonna be awful. I can't do it. And so I would stretch here and there, but I was like, I'm gonna have to do this
Yeah.
because I committed to do this. So this morning, I
Like
got up,
a
I
few
looked at
hours
my,
ago.
yes, I looked at my husband and I said, I have to go do this yoga. I have to, because I gave my word that I would do
Oh,
these.
Dixie.
And I can't go in and say, nope, I didn't do it. I was too afraid. It's because I've been saying do it afraid
You're
this whole
great.
time. So, so I found when I used to do yoga like on a regular, I've been to hot yoga classes, I've been to regular yoga classes, but it's been a minute. And
Yeah.
so I certainly haven't gone since I've been postmenopausal and haven't having to build back up strength, in this new
Mhm.
body that I'm not recognizing 100% just yet.
Right.
So I got my mat, put it out in my driveway. It felt amazing. I mean, the sun was shining, the breeze was blowing. It was the perfect day. And so I
Oh.
went back to one of the people I used to do their yoga on
Mm.
YouTube, and she had yoga for like flow for beginners.
Yeah.
And I was
Yes.
like, okay, this is where we're gonna start.
Perfect.
And so I was out there, 30 plus minutes. And she very much ties in breath. She's like, it starts with breath. She's
Yeah.
like, you lead with your breath and all this stuff. And she didn't get like hooey or anything like that, which some people go, oh, that's weird.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was very practical and very
Yeah.
like relaxing. And I did not fall. I held my body up and I
Very good.
did all the things. And at the end, we ended up laying on our back was the last thing. We did a couple things and then she laid, we were laying on our back and inhale, exhale, just
Mhm.
breathe and take in whatever, let your mind just kind of settle. And um, it was so lovely. I was like, this is great. Why
Oh.
was I so afraid of this? I should do this more often. And so
Okay.
I should incorporate this because just there was I found myself at the very end like just kind of praying and being thankful
Yeah.
um and the fact that I allowed fear not to let me experience that before this morning is kind of in retrospect I could kick myself, um but yeah, every time I would go to do it I would make an excuse like, oh, I can't do this because I'm this, or what if I can't hold myself up in the downward dog, what if I can't do the things that I used to could do with my body. What I
Yeah.
don't I'm not sure if I couldn't, I wasn't really ready to face it because I'm in this mindset that I can conquer anything right now. And
Right.
but yeah, I should have just not been afraid because I did it afraid and it turned out to be great. So I
Yeah.
probably had I just ripped the band-aid off on Tuesday of last week, I probably would have done it every day. But whatever.
Well,
That's
I
where we
think
are.
well, I think that's part of what the whole process is for us on this whole year-long journey is
Mhm.
figuring that out, and that's a big piece of you, you know?
Yes,
We I l
and I will say, I
Yeah,
hate to interrupt you, but I will say
good.
that stretching and a yoga practice are totally different.
Right.
And I learned that today because I can stretch and get the job done. But there's something about slowing everything down and breathing and allowing. I don't almost It was almost spiritual for me,
Yes.
in
Yes.
addition to, getting the job done, getting things, stretched out and all the
Right.
things. But
Right.
I don't know if it's in the poses or how you're breathing. I mean, you would know more, but
Mhm.
it felt very different than just doing like a go wide.
Yeah, yeah. It's the mind-body connection. So it's everything
Yeah.
that you just said. It's the
Mhm.
breath and it's tuning in and it's slowing down so that you can really hear your body and what it has to tell you. That
Mhm.
sounds kooky. And I could go off into a million different kooky things that through the training that all the different spiritual aspects because I think it's really interesting when people say, "Oh, that yoga is a it's a spiritual practice. It's a religion, and it's not good because it's not worship. You're worshiping
Mm-mm.
something other than God, but you're not worshiping
Mm-mm.
a deity, if you will. You're worshiping the fact that you're getting to take some time to slow down, just like you said. And I think that's the biggest attribute for so many things. When we slow down and we turn down the exterior noise, then we get an opportunity to really connect deep within ourselves. And it becomes very spiritual for us as we connect to something outside of ourselves that's much bigger, that holds us and really takes care of us.
Mhm.
Whether that's your belief in your connection to Buddha, to Mother Mary, to God, to God consciousness, to the universe, whatever your connection is. And I think, without getting too deep into it, I think that when I was little, a lot of times, yeah, in the area of the country that I grew up is very fundamentalist. And we'd go to church and it was like, this is the only way, this is the only thing that matters. This is the way that you must believe, and this is how it is. So for me, knowing my brain, I wasn't settled with just this is the only way that there is. I wanted to know how other people felt. I wanted to know what other people thought about their belief and what that
Mhm.
meant, what that looked like for them. I was really curious to know, to open up the box, even though I was still really appreciative of the fact that I was given a morality to grow up
Mhm.
with, and a
Mhm.
practice to grow up with. But for me, yoga has allowed me to step outside of a frame of it's all about me, when it
Mhm.
is still all about me when you're practicing, but it becomes all about the all, if that
Mhm.
makes I'm getting so philosophical here.
No, but it does make sense. But just like, it's really difficult to focus on, like anything else other than the movements or the breathing. So, like every family in the world, we have a lot going on right now, as you do, as everybody in the world does. I mean, anybody listening or watching is going to be like, "Oh, you think you have a lot going on?" We all have a lot
Yeah.
going on. And
Yeah.
so the fact that for the 30 minutes that I was doing that, I'm getting the physical release. So I'm getting that. Um, I don't know what the scientific thing is, but
Mhm.
whatever the body does when you
Mhm.
exercise,
Yep.
you're getting that. But I didn't think about anything, not one time. I didn't think about
Oh,
any problem. I didn't think about, oh, the rest of my day. I wasn't thinking about any of that because I think you're so focused
yeah,
on just breathing and taking care of yourself. And
yeah,
I don't think there's anything wrong with that or anti anything. I just think it's taken a minute to slow down, and people do it in different ways. I
yeah,
happen to do it with yoga this morning. A lot
yeah,
of people do it with meditation or prayer or
yep,
reading or whatever. I think they can get lumped in. This
right.
morning it was a physical response, and I'm natured to really love that,
Yes,
you know.
yeah, yeah,
And it was
thank you.
still. I was moving, but I was still.
Yes, I think that's the really interesting part of it. It's that contradictory movement, but being still and how
Mhm.
that's you said it perfectly. Yeah, you were
Yeah.
moving, but you were being still. I will go back to that scientific piece for you. It releases dopamine, serotonin, and
Mhm.
norepinephrine when you
Mm.
do yoga. So there is a definite physical attribute that goes along with that. Gosh, it
Mhm.
increases your immune function, decreases your anxiety, increases your overall quality of life, and it helps. Also, another thing it really does is helps with burnout, which is a really interesting thing because it's very mental. And I say that because that's always been something that I think I've challenged or I've been challenged with in different aspects of stuff that I've done is I do it so much. I'm so hyper focused on it. I'm so aware
Hmm.
that then you get to the point where you're like, oh gosh, I don't want to do this anymore. So like the definition of burnout, right?
Right.
So
Right.
when I go into some kind of practice that really slows me down and becomes, well, I have to become hyper vigilant about one thing, which is breathing, something that
Hmm.
don't focus on. All of those other aspects kind of reframe. So
Right.
any type of burnout that I may be feeling, any type of frustration that I may be feeling, or anxiety that I may be feeling, absolutely gets a point of perspective when I'm
Hmm. Yeah.
in that movement and the stillness, the two things together.
Yeah, absolutely love it. And I'm still at it. It needs to be reiterated that had I just ripped the band-aid off, I probably would have had a much better week because I had several things
Oh,
this week come at me that aren't, I mean, they're fine now, but
yeah.
how much better could I have how much less could it have affected me had I been
Mm,
taking the time to just be still? And I
yeah,
have a morning routine that is very still, but it's reading and journaling and
yeah.
gratitude and um yeah, maybe I'll have to add about 15 minutes of yoga
Right. Yeah.
into that.
Exactly, and I will tell you, for me, the 3 times of yoga was they were not what they used to be, and I kinda piggyback that on what I've been learning about myself over the course of the last what we've been doing here, 9, 10, 11, 12 weeks,
Hmm.
and that slowing down process and not doing too much because I taught at a hot yoga studio in the Nashville area for a handful of years, and it was the flow like you're doing, only in a heated room, and
Hmm.
oh gosh, I think I was teaching 2 or 3 nights out of the week, which wasn't crazy, but it's the 5:30 class and it's everybody coming straight away in from work and just like they are like, "Woo,"
Oh
their
yeah.
volume is turned way up. And we would have some classes that would be 50 people in the class and they're on top of one another. And it's just the energy in the room is just palpable at the beginning. It's just like, okay, we're just going to sit here or stand here. And I just want you to take a couple deep breaths and just be here because I can feel that you're not there.
Hmm.
So my work in my yoga practice has always been this flow. It's we ground and then we flow and then we ground and then we flow. So there's always movement, which I love. I love, love, love that. But for me this week, I knew that I needed to dial it back.
Hmm.
So I finished a workout one day, super mental about a bunch of other things that were going on. The workout was great, but it was still my stuff was still kind of hanging over my head, and I knew I needed to stretch. It was something that involved deadlifts, and my hamstrings were screaming at me at that point. So
Hmm.
laid down, did some hamstring stretches, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to flip over and just sit in child's pose because my mind is still chattering. I'm going to
Hmm.
put my forehead on the ground and I'm going to let my hips open and I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to turn on one of my favorite songs and I'm going to sit for no less in child's pose than the amount of time it takes for that song to complete. And it just never fails to show me that even yoga in the most still positions, the most basic positions that we can all do in some capacity, because we can all
Hmm.
do child's pose. We
Hmm.
can all modify it to fit our bodies, fit
Yeah,
our worlds and where we are at any point in time. But the simplest of things will bring the most release a lot of times. And it was really good. So that was one of my yoga experiences, if
I
you will.
love that. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That was
Um,
one of my favorite too this morning when she was like kind of coaching you into how to get there because we were on all fours.
mhm.
I'm sure there's a name for that. Doing the where you inhale and you kind of arch the back and then you
Yeah.
exhale when you
Cat cow.
cat. There we go. That's
Yeah.
what it was.
Yeah.
Um, After that, we got into child's pose, and
Mhm.
I did have to do a kind of a variation. I'm not as near as amazing as the woman who was leading the class, but it was I was like, oh, you just take a breath.
Mhm.
There's something the forehead on the ground too.
Yeah.
It was really um I was aware
Yeah.
that wow, this is really relaxing. Who would have thunk it that I would be relaxed in this position? But
Right, right, exactly, exactly, and the other times that I did, one was just a basic meditation, and I love the fact that I had a guest on the show early last year. Her name is Courtney Cole, and she has studied yoga in India. She's done all sorts of things. She's a former musician and she's still a musician, but her genre has shifted with
Mhm.
her yoga practice. And it's a
Awesome.
very, yeah, it's a very interesting storyline that she has and her life and following her life. And I've known her for, I don't know, probably close to 15 years now, and have
Mhm.
watched her go through all these beautiful doors. And one thing that she always says is that yoga isn't always about constant movement. Sometimes yoga is just about sitting and being mindful about what you were talking about. One simple thing, your breath, focusing
Mhm.
on your breath. So you could call that meditation, you could call that prayer, you could call that stillness, but it all can be called yoga, if that
Mhm.
makes any sense. So one of my yogas was actually sitting down in my garage again at the end of an exercise session and just being still and doing nothing, turning everything off. Open the garage doors were wide open so I could hear like the wind and the leaves all falling off
Mhm.
the trees, periodically cars driving by. My dogs weren't out there to mess with me. I kept them inside. Yeah, because they're right in the middle of it.
Uh-huh.
And I turned off music, I turned off my phone, I turned off all of it and just sat and just was like, "Okay, I'm gonna be present with my breath. Nothing matters. Nothing matters." It's like it's the experience that you talked about when
Mhm.
you said nothing was filling my brain. It was just you're giving yourself permission to just be in the space that you're in, and there's
Right.
really something beautiful about that. I think we don't give ourselves very often.
Well, no, because we say it all the time. We're go, 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 hustle
Mm.
culture.
Yep.
Nobody has time. And I remember just you mentioning that reminds me of, a lot of times at the end of a CrossFit workout, I would just lay down and do box breathing for like
Yes.
5 minutes. And it was amazing how much that just kind of clears. It's kind of like the final piece, just
Yeah.
to,
Yep.
um, clear it all out. So
So
I
you've
love it.
already been doing yoga. You just didn't know it.
I just didn't know it. And I've dabbled, like I've tried here and there. Like I have I have a really good friend that it's a mutual friend of ours, but she loves yoga and I've gone to classes with her from time to time, just dropping in here and
Yeah.
there or doing a YouTube of this particular person that I follow and but never just like an consistent
Right.
practice. And
Right.
maybe I should try to figure that out because my job, I'm on my feet for anywhere from 10 to 12 hours a
Mm,
shift. So
yeah.
I could probably benefit from a little bit of stillness
For
coupled with
sure.
a little bit of emotion and stretching.
Yeah, and your body being on your feet, a simple thing that you could do is lay with your feet up the wall at the end of the
Mhm.
day,
Mhm.
just for 5 or 10 minutes, and that will just help release any kind of fluid, any kind of swelling, any kind of pain that you have by just being
Mhm.
on your feet that we experience in the lower legs and the ankles, the soles of the feet in general.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Love
Yeah,
it.
my 3rd time was actually just doing it, and I was just gonna say, I had intentions of going to a class in a studio at least one of these 3 times, and I
Mhm.
just couldn't make it happen.
Yeah.
And it's probably very similar to you because I could have made the time. I could have made the time, and I didn't, but I was like, "All right, what's the next best thing? All right, I'm a yoga instructor from the past, so here you go. I'm
You
just
don't
gonna
need a
do."
class.
Yeah, I really what do I what am I saying that I do need a class? No, I can do this. I can do this. And it doesn't have to be a lot. So I did a series of sun salutations when I was in my hotel room and I was out of town this week because I was with my daughter. I was traveling around with her and I was doing a lot of sitting. I wasn't doing a lot of movement just because of the schedule that I had to keep for 48 hours. So I was like, all right, before I go to when I get back in the hotel room, shower, and then I'm going to do a series of sun salutations just to kind of slowly decelerate my brain and stretch out my back from sitting and traveling and all the things that I had done that day.
Mhm.
Um, and it was good. Again, it just, this whole lesson of this year for me just goes back to that whole making it simple, slowing
Mhm.
it down a little bit is just as beneficial as a ton.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. And I think that's where people, and by people, I mean people, I'm pointing at myself. Um, we think it has to be all or nothing. Like it has to be perfect and every day and intense and 45 minutes. And I did this and it's got to
Yeah.
be so aggressive for it to be effective. And this is what I've been learning. Particularly more so, I've been allowing myself to apply it over the last 6 months is, it doesn't have to be this big thing.
Right.
It can so easily be a part of your life. Just, a walk is very effective. You don't have to be deadlifting 250 pounds to be taking care of your body. You
Yeah.
don't have to do an hour and a half, whatever, to be taking care of yourself.
Right.
It's okay to, eat, what do they say? Eat the elephant one bite at a time. That's,
Oh, wait,
you
I haven't
know,
heard that in forever either. That's so great.
yeah, just
Where
one
yeah,
bite at a time.
yeah,
What do I have today to give? And to
mm,
prioritize it. Just
mhm,
prioritize yourself.
yeah,
Um, and today, and I know there's seasons where we dial it in and we're more intense,
yeah.
but it's an ebb and a flow.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. The ebb and the flow and finding out where you are on that meter at any
Hmm.
given point in time, and not judging yourself if you can't get to everything that your mind is saying, "I wanna get this accomplished," or
Hmm.
write it down on my to-do list. I'm gonna do X, Y, or Z. And if you don't get the to-do list done, it's really okay, and
Yeah.
I'm talking in reference to doing more in terms of,
Hmm.
like, if we're talking about yoga or we're talking about exercise and self-care in
Sure.
that capacity, for
Hmm.
sure. Yeah.
Hmm.
I will tell
Sometimes
you.
self-care is the nap.
Yes, right?
Girl,
Yeah.
I'm always down for a nap.
Oh, girl, me too. 20 minutes and I'm like, I'm a brand new
I
person.
know, right? Me too.
Yeah. I can't wait for that week, by the way. We do have a week coming up that's gonna talk about sleep hygiene, and I can't wait
Yes.
for that one.
And I'm excited for that one too, because I've been doing a lot of research on that. But yeah.
Yeah, that'll be
So,
good for
yeah.
sure. I will just say that I remember when I was teaching yoga initially when I started, it was just in a really basic yoga flow. It wasn't anything crazy. And then I had a friend that said, "Hey, I think you should meet my friend Suzanne. She has this great studio in town. It's hot yoga." And I'm like, "I am totally not going into a hot yoga class to do anything." And she's like, "I just think you should give it a try." So I went in and I did one of those hot yoga classes, and my friend said you should arrive at the hot yoga studio well before the class takes place,
Hmm.
and you should go sit in the room and let your body acclimate to the temperature of the room. And I
Hmm.
went, what am I getting into? I'm trusting you innately, the fact that you said I need to meet this woman and I need to be doing this. And I was going there kicking and screaming.
Hmm.
I went in the room 15 minutes before the class started and sat down on my mat and looked around at other people that were just like smiling and, smiley, happy people, and I'm just like,
It's hot
why?
and humid in here. It's 1,000 degrees.
Yes, I am so unhappy right now. I'm so unhappy. But eventually I got used to the fact that the heat is not going away and I'm going to do this. And literally 30 minutes into the class, I felt like a click. I felt like a
Hmm.
shift in my soul, if you will, that was like, okay, I don't have to do this. I get to do this.
Hmm.
I get to do this. And it totally changed my whole aspect and my whole outlook on it. And I came out of there going, you know what? Yeah, there's something to this. And it's not about how many calories you burn, it's about the feeling that it left me with. And for
Hmm.
me, I would much rather be sweating than having to put on layers and layers and layers and being so cold. I'm
Yeah,
totally a warm weather person all the way through.
I am too. I am too. I love hot weather. And I think too, hot yoga is, I've only done one hot yoga class ever, but
Yeah.
it was same thing. Went with that friend of mine, went in early, sat there, and people are already just like laying on their mat
Mhm.
or doing a little bit of whatever, sitting in the, they don't call it when you cross your legs and sit, they have a word for that too, but um however that, whatever that pose
And
is, everything's,
half lotus or full lotus. Yeah.
yes, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So everybody is just already immediately they're getting still, even
Yeah.
though you're getting acclimated to the temperature. But then the amount of sweat that was on my mat, my clothes were soaking wet, my hair was wet. It's
Yeah.
kind of it's a very good indication. It's like a physical representation of just getting it all out, you know?
Yes.
It's like, look what I
Yes.
just did. Oh my
Yes.
word, I'm pretty amazing.
Yes.
Look
Yes.
what all got released.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And that I'm such a visual, metaphoric kind of individual. And I
Mhm.
know so many people in my life that have come through that are the same way. And a client actually told me about that because I was like, I think you need to go to an actual hot yoga class and go experience it. And she went kicking and screaming as well.
Mhm.
And she said, made the same comment when she came back for another session with me. She was like, hey, I really like, it was symbolic for me, like the sweat.
Mhm.
She goes, and at the end of the class, when we were in our final resting position, I started crying.
I
Like I
did
had tears
too.
coming.
I cried too. Yes,
Oh, that's
I did
beautiful,
too.
Dixie.
And what's funny is I didn't go kicking and screaming. I went having no idea what I was getting into.
Yeah.
I just thought yoga. I thought hot yoga. I mean, are we supposed to be like all that when we go in? I didn't
No,
read.
no. Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's like 100 degrees or however many degrees it is in there,
Yes. Yeah.
which I do love. But um, yes, I cried too. I
Mhm.
almost cried this morning too, but
Oh.
I was very close. But not that I was holding anything back. I could just feel had that had the session gone on a little bit longer,
Mhm.
I probably would have, or had I laid there a little bit longer. But it was on in a situation where you're in a class and they just kind of let the music go and everybody's just quiet and it's kind of like a soft end, a
Yeah.
soft ending. The
Yeah.
YouTube video, there was a harsh ending, not a harsh
Right.
ending, but the
But
video
it's
was
not
over.
the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
for
not
sure.
that peaceful music where you can just kind of lay there and let it simmer.
Mhm.
So but I cried that I did the same thing.
Yeah. I think it
So
just cracks you open. It cracks a
mhm,
piece of you open to a place where you're like, "I'm ready to let something go."
mhm,
Know, and even if it's just 1% of letting go, what that does is opens up a space for us to have another experience that can benefit us. And we want to
mhm,
fill those spaces with positivity. We want to fill those spaces with hope. You know, we want
mhm,
to fill those spaces with things that really benefit us and our souls to the deepest core that we can. And
mhm,
like I think was gosh, it's been a while back, a few episodes at least ago, we're talking about having to clear out the old so that the new can have room to grow. You can't
mhm.
grow the new on top of the old and have a weed-free garden, if you will.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So when we release even just a little bit in those tears, it's really great. It leaves some space and it leaves you walking out off of your mat going, I feel like I have just a little bit more area to breathe.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with that
Mhm.
statement, you know.
Yeah. It was funny
So
too, at the CrossFit studio that I used to coach at, they're like, "Hey, let's do yoga and let's just do this for 3 months, like, for this season, and Dawn, will you do this, like, once or twice a week with our members?" I'm like, "Sure, yeah." And you know CrossFit, we've talked about CrossFit. We are CrossFit. We're
right.
like that, like,
Mhm.
that's a brick wall, and the
I'm
instructor
going
says
through it.
we're running through it for 18 minutes AMRAP, and then after we run through it 18 different times, we're gonna do 500 wall balls on the end of it, and then we're going to do ab mat sit-ups till our stomach muscles fall off of our body, right? Right. I'm
Right.
totally overdoing that, but you get what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I do.
Yeah. So are all the A-type personalities, and they're sitting there on their mat, and I'm like, "How do I even address this?" Because most people are thinking yoga is we have to sit there in this mudra with our hands touching a certain way in the crisscross
Um,
applesauce and hum and om. Yeah, we're gonna we're gonna do that. And, look, that's what yoga is for a lot of people. That's what it is. But if I'm thinking about this CrossFit community, like that's the last thing they want. They want, but that's the first thing that they need. The last thing that they want, but the first thing that they need to be able to create space both in their bodies physically as well as their minds so that when they go into that high intensity work, it's like, all right, I have the capability. It's that slowing down to speed up. That
mhm.
whole like what did you say earlier? It's that stillness in the movement. It's
Yeah, yeah.
finding that the duality of the two and how
Mhm,
important it is that the two things can exist simultaneously.
mhm,
And man, like when you think about you're instructing something, I used to do this all the time. I don't so much anymore now that I'm older, but I used to think, oh my God, I hope they got out of it what they needed to. I hope that I did enough for everybody in the room. And I used to have a mentor that said, you have to go to the person that you're attracted to that needs the most and let it expand out from there
mhm.
because that's the person that really is seeking that. Not that everybody's not seeking it, but it's a ripple effect that will create when you go to that person that is really in need. And you can feel that, you can sense that, you know that. So my
Yeah.
experience in yoga has been really interesting, from hot yoga to the very beginnings of yoga to yoga at CrossFit to yoga in the garage to meditation to actually sitting and oming, and having
Hmm.
that true meditative practice. It's all been a piece that's been very, very beneficial. I'm really, really glad it's been part of my life. And it ebbs and flows in and out of my life too. So it's all
Hmm.
good.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. It'll definitely be something I this coming week I'm going to try to fit it in more than just, one time. We'll see.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. I
Well,
always do that on these calls. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to
I
add this. Yeah, I'm gonna
know.
add this. I'm going to add this. Cuz but this one was different for me. It felt
Yeah.
really really healing, and that's probably why I somewhere inside,
Yeah.
I don't know why I was fighting it so hard, but I was just, it simply came down to being afraid that I wouldn't be able to do it physically. And
Yeah.
that's what I was surprised that
Yeah.
well, not so surprised, but you never.
Well, I think you're just learning more about yourself, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And congratulations, you're a human. And
Yes. Welcome to humanity.
welcome to humanity. Yeah, I mean,
That's it.
we don't always do it right, but we do the best of our ability and the best of our capacity. And I really say that there's no mistakes. I mean, there's no mistake for the fact that you didn't do the exercise until today. There really
Yeah.
isn't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because maybe the value what you that you got out of it would have been a lot different. Not that it's would have been worse or better, just would have
Hmm.
been a lot different if you had done it at a different
Time.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, with a different mindset and all of that.
Yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned meditation and something else, because when I opened her YouTube account this morning to pick one to do, she has several meditations that aren't very long.
Yeah.
And I thought, meditations? I thought this is yoga. And then I started um, seeing, I was like, okay, this is a pattern. This is part
Mhm.
of the umbrella,
Yeah.
just the stillness, taking time. And so I am going to try one of those. And she has another one that is about, I can't think of how she said it, but like a healing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
interested. That it just sparked my interest. So
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad.
yeah,
You've
right,
just
cool.
you turned your wheel down a whole new avenue.
I did.
Exciting.
Right. What was I was so afraid to even try, and then after the one, I was like, oh, look at this and this
Yeah.
and this. So
Did she do the whole namaste at the end?
she did not do that at the end, but we were laying down, and she had you do the where you put your thumbs on your forehead, while
Yeah.
you're laying there. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Which is basically the namaste. Yeah. And
yeah, which is the same thing,
yeah.
probably. Yeah.
So
So.
that's so funny. The first class I ever went into, for literally the first 5 or 6 classes, at the end, you come into the seated position and you have your hands in prayer position, and the instructor says something or says a quote or gives some kind of little tidbit of some sort, and then she or he will bow at you and say namaste. So
Mhm.
it's kind of like a goodbye, like the
Mhm.
light in me, basically the light in me honors the light in you. Like I see you, you see me, we're all one in this humanity kind of thing. So it's a
Yeah, that's
reverence,
really
it's a
cool.
respect, right? To
It
clarify.
reminds me of when you describe it like that, it reminds me of in the Episcopal Church where they pass the peace.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's kind of, I guess, that same
Exactly.
mindset. Yeah, that's
Yes.
really cool. Yeah.
Exactly. But the first 5 or 6 classes, I had no idea what they were saying. I
Mm.
didn't know what they were saying, so I was just like, and it took me the guts
And it's so
after the 5th or 6th class to actually ask the instructor, "What is it that you're saying at the end?" 'Cause I couldn't understand it because everybody's kinda quiet, and the first classes you go into, I'm gonna stay in the back of the room because I really don't know what I'm doing, and I don't wanna
yeah.
be in the front, and so I'm like, yeah, okay, what you're
Oh
saying.
no, what is
Yeah.
that? What are we
La,
saying?
la, 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 la. Just mumbling with the group, but that's my, indoctrination to the word namaste. She was like, "Oh,
That's
it's all good. Everybody does that." Yeah.
that's
So,
so funny.
yeah.
That's so great.
There's
And
my
now
namaste.
everybody's seen the word, so they know it. But before then,
Right. It's
before we had social media and all the things where it says, namaste, whatever. So
right. Before we had Target up the way with the
right.
namaste in bed on the
Yes.
on the shirt.
And I'm gonna stay here and eat this piece of pizza. Right. So, right. Oh, goodness. Good week. Namaste.
No, Dixie, I love you. You're so fun. This is amazing. So fun.
Oh,
I
my
love how
Lord.
real you are. And if nothing else, like I think these weeks are just making you even more real than you already have been. So
Oh,
I
well,
appreciate that.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you. I love being
absolutely.
here. This has been such it's been a real growing needed thing for me. So
Oh,
I
good.
love how it all came to be. So I'm excited. I'm excited every week. So
Yay. As am I. As am I.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, kids. Well, get out there, get your yoga mat on. Or if you don't have a yoga mat, just lay down on your living room floor. Do child's pose.
Or
Do a
doing the
downward facing
grass.
dog.
Go outside and doing the grass.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Amen,
Let's
sister.
combine some things.
There you go. Grounding as well as the yoga.
There you
And
go.
we'll just see how that will affect you on so many levels in the best possible way.
Yeah, love it.
Yeah,
Love
you
it.
got it. All right. Until next week, everybody, I'm Dawn.
I'm Dixie.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.
Yeah.